And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening to this information. My name is Rafael Vasquez, and this is your show, Líderes del Futuro. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing Griselda Madrigal Lara, who is working now at Sonoma State University in the Puerta program. First of all, Griselda, thank you for accepting the invitation to be with me today.
Thank you, Rafael, for inviting me to your podcast.
And if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, I think it's important for people to understand who you are, and then we can move into what your position is at Sonoma State University.
Of course. So, yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an immigrant from Mexico. I come from a really small town in Michoacan. I immigrated here with my family when I was 8 years old, and I really identify with that. I really identify with being an immigrant, being a person from a low income, disadvantaged background. And so, with that experience, I also try to get engaged and become involved in my community and help others that went through or are going through the same experience. And all my education, I worked as a migrant education advisor until I graduated from Sonoma State. And after graduating with my master's, it's always been that working with migrant people, migrant students, and that's who I am. That's part of my life.
Good. So, can you tell us what your bachelor's and your master's degree was on? And then, if you could introduce us to this new program, relatively new program still at Sonoma State, that is called Puerta.
Of course. So I am actually a transfer student. I went to Santa Rosa Junior College first, then I transferred to Sonoma State. And so I gotta say that because that's also part of my experience, spending 3 years at Santa Rosa Junior College and then 2 years at Sonoma State, becoming a McNair Scholar, being part of EOPS, EOP, and doing my bachelor's in Chicano and Latino studies. And then as a McNair Scholar and doing research, I became involved in, of course, applying for graduate school. And I got into University of Texas at Austin and fully funded program, got my master's in Mexican American and Latino Studies, and now became a Puerta and Case academic advisor at Sonoma State University. So going back to SSU and helping other students that are coming from low income, first generation, Latinx backgrounds, pursuing teaching credentials, teaching degrees.
And so, one of the things that we have in California for sure is large numbers of Latinx community members who are in the classroom. When we talk about K 12, it's getting close to 60 or 70% people of color and Latinx people being in high numbers. But what we still see is not a lot of people of color in the classroom as teachers. And so Sonoma State University applied for a grant when they became a Hispanic serving institution, as they call it, which means they had a 25 minimum percent, 25% Latinx student population, and you were able to get a grant. And now you're working in the Puerta program. um, One, what is your role specifically there? And two, what are the benefits of being in the program?
Of course. So yes, I do want to mention also, we can come back to this, but about the percentage of Latino students in K through 12, just the really high percentages in Sonoma County, but also nationally. LCL, and I was just reading an article, they have 80% Latino students, and I think when the article was written, of the teachers were Latinx, identified as Hispanic or Latinx. And so the gap there, it's very meaningful because students aren't seeing themselves in professionals. If they see themselves at a school, it's in instructional aides, custodians, and so rarely do they see themselves in counselors, in teachers, in administration. And that's really important because then research has shown that students who have Latinx teachers actually do better. They have higher test scores, they have greater graduation rates. And so it's very important to have more Latinx teachers in Sonoma County and of course nationally. So what the program does is that it sees this, it sees the statistics, and what they're trying to do is to increase the amount of the number of students that go into their credentials and that actually receive the credentials, because going into a credential program also comes with a lot of barriers, and a lot of them are systemic barriers, like the CBEST, like the CSETs, just examinations that they have to go through and that they have to pay. At Sonoma State, it cost about $15,000 to get their credentials. And so when you have a student that comes from a Latinx background or low income background or someone from an underrepresented community, $15,000 to get a credential on top of getting a bachelor's, that's a lot of money. And when the incentive is, it's not great, because also we know that teachers aren't paid greatly, and when it comes with being a Latinx teacher at a school, that also comes with a lot of extra work on top of your job. And
Mhm.
so there's that. So what Puerta is trying to do, it Puerta actually stands for Preparing Underrepresented Educators Realize Their Teaching Ambitions, and that is what is trying to do. And through academic advising, so as a student that goes into the Puerta program, you receive academic advising from us. There's 3 advisors as of now. You receive a lot of events, so we create a lot of programming. Tomorrow, for example, we're having a community gathering, and we have Mr. Ramirez being one of our guest speakers, who he's a greatly recognized teacher here in Sonoma County, but also nationally. He was awarded the Harvard Education Award, the Singer Prize, and so it's things like that that get students going. Of course, also monetary incentives like paying for the testing, which can cost $100 or more, and those type of tests, students sometimes fail. A lot of the times fail. There's like 60% of students fail the first time for the CSET in comparison to the other one, and that's a big percentage. And so what Puerta does is that it pays for those tests, and it doesn't matter how many times you have to take them. Um, so that's really great, going over that systemic barrier. And of course, emotional support. In our academic advising is not just academic, it's a lot of doing holistic wellness and um, looking at the student, not just as a student, but also as a person. And so helping them get through that and retaining the student and having the student graduate.
Good.
That's what.
And so, anybody who is intending on becoming a teacher, who is in Sonoma State University or plans to obtain a teaching credential through Sonoma State University, can they apply, or do they have to be Latinx as part of this?
No, so any student that, if you're a student that you're a community college student or a freshman, high school senior, and you're applying to SSU, as long as you are an SSU student, so you can be you can apply for the Porta. There's an application. There's an application that you have to follow. You do have to be low income, first generation, which just means that your parents didn't receive an education in the United States. Um, and that's important to mention, because sometimes they receive education in their home countries, but it's not validated here. And so there's that. And yeah, just be the first in their families to be receiving a bachelor's.
Good. And so you are again providing this support to these individuals. I like the part about inviting people like Mr. Ramirez, who has dedicated over 40 years of his life to teaching and preparing students who, again, have gone, as you mentioned, to Harvard. And it was a former student who nominated him to be able to receive that award. And again, teaching is a little bit different because there's the money aspect of it, of which in many situations, in many school districts, they don't get paid for all the work that they do. But teaching really is about coming from the heart and really wanting to see a positive change in our community. And so I'm grateful for you taking the time and speaking with us today to get the word out that the Puerta program or is out there, and that people can also understand that they can make a difference in the next generation by becoming a teacher. So I want to thank you again for taking the time, and I look forward to our next conversation and to talk about the benefits, that this program is bringing to the community.
Thank you, Rafael. Thank you. And before before I leave, I do want to mention what you just said, and I see it as a circle. You know, I see it as the student. Maybe I didn't have a good experience in high school, but I wanted to go back and make a good experience for other students and have them um, do better than I did. And so, yes, it's a work that never ends, but it's good work
Mhm.
that matters.
Definitely. Is there a website that students can go to, or a phone number they can reach out to, or an email address, something that they can, again, write down and go check out for further information?
Yeah, the website, you just Google Puerta SSU and it's very easy. There's a lot of information there.
Okay. And again, with that, I want to thank you for taking the time. And again, I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you, Rafael.